All right, guys. So this is a podcast on the evolution of Phase One and Phase Two of Marvel's Cinematic Universe. And then we will transition into WB's Justice League and what might work, what doesn't work, and our ideas. This is UniBeam, and he's here with
JonathaNisMagnuM, but I can go by Johnny or John.
And then my name's Joey. You can call me Joey.
All right, and I'll be referred to Uni from here on out. So let's hear your guys' thoughts on the evolution from Phase 1 of Marvel to Phase 2.
I'll go ahead and go first. My initial opinion on Phase 1 has got to be that's got to be one of the best ideas to ever happen. Not just for comic book movies, but like for movies in general.
Yeah.
I think that making a whole universe is just something that, like I said, has never been done before. So, starting it out, and the cool thing was they started out, second-tier characters, in my opinion, characters that weren't as popular at the time with, like, X-Men or, Spider-Man. So to do it with, Iron Man and then bring on, Thor and Captain America, who are, they're significant heroes, but only to, like, core fans. And then to build this universe, it's been pretty intense. I like what I've seen so far.
I really feel like it was beautiful how in the beginning, like, they weren't really sure what they were doing. And as the movies progressed and after The Incredible Hulk, they kind of decided, hey, this can happen. And, it worked effortlessly. I can't pronounce it. Effortlessly. How do you say it?
Effortlessly.
Yes, and it was just awesome getting to see like all the after credit features coming on, and seeing all the exciting news on comicbookmovie.com, and just it was one of the coolest experiences for a comic book fan, for a Marvel fan, to just witness that. Like, I thought it was amazing, and the fact that they did something with movies that have, like Jonathan said, they've never been done. It's never been done. And I agree with Jonathan. It was one of the greatest things that's ever happened in the cinematic universe.
Oh yeah, definitely. I have to agree. Never before have we seen individual movies being tied together with an overarching theme. I remember when before Iron Man came out, I had this idea to make a Marvel film that ties into each other for the big four of the Avengers. And when I finally heard that was happening, I just could have swore to God that someone from Marvel overheard my fucking idea and took it, man. And so when I first... Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's just a cool thing. As fans, like, it's always been... I think it was definitely like a dream come true, but like not really just for fans, but for anybody, because people were always wondering, it's like, okay, well, back in the 70s, they started to bring in, different superheroes in other people's, comic book issues, like Wolverine debuted in the Hulk, and then you see, the Punisher debuted in Spider-Man. So it's like, you see this, you see that happen in the books, and they're like, they at first, in the beginning of like the 2000s and everything, when the X-Men and Spider-Man are getting their own movies, people just start talking and like, man, what if one day we saw, Spider-Man and an X-Men movie, or what if one day we saw, these two separate universes kind of come together, and that's basically what Marvel's done.
Yeah, definitely. The essence of Marvel in the comic books is that it is a shared universe. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the very first cover of Spider-Man has the Fantastic Four in it. Am I right?
Oh, you're right, dude.
Yeah.
It's Amazing. Well, not Amazing Fantasy. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man #1.
Yeah.
It's him in the Fantastic Four. Yeah.
Yeah. So Marvel was always meant to share its universes. It's kind of cool to see that, because I've always kind of wondered, like, watching movies like Lethal Weapon, like, hey, where the hell is John McClane when all this shit's happening? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's really cool to see that, and I know every fanboy who stayed for the after credits in the first Iron Man pissed themselves when they saw Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. There were rumors online about it for Miles that, oh yeah, Nick Fury was spotted on the set of Iron Man, and then they come out and try and officially debunk it, and then we finally see it, and we just know that it's leading up to something huge, and each after credits scene just tied to the next one. Hulk, I think, is the only one that didn't have an after the credits scene. It's just the end of the movie featured Tony Stark. But again, to weave these movies together so seamlessly and in such a smart way to lead up to one of the biggest cinematic endeavors ever is just so cool to be a part of now as a Marvel fan.
Yeah, man. I just it bring me back to like Iron Man 1 and Incredible Hulk.
Joey and I actually we saw Iron Man 1 together. We went to go see it, and I mean, dude, I don't know if I've ever had a more like geeked out time. Like, it's just, I mean, speaking on Iron Man 1, because of course everyone knows it's the beginning. It was the first, the one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was just done so perfectly. I mean, honestly, like, that's one movie I know, like, people talk about, this movie was awesome all the way, but I would have changed this, or I would have changed that. Iron Man is one of those movies, like, seriously, I wouldn't have to change one thing, from the script, from the actors, from the costume design, of course, to Iron Man's new suit and everything. I mean, it just, honestly, it was so perfect. And then to see, Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury at the end, you're just like, okay, like, in my opinion, this is what I thought back in 2008 when it came out. I just thought it was like a little kind of wink, nod to say, oh, Nick Fury talks to Tony Stark all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't up until The Incredible Hulk, when Robert Downey Jr. was at the end of that, talking about putting a team together. That's when I was like, okay, wait, this is
could really happen.
This is about to happen,
really
yeah.
Happening.
Yes.
So that was my initial reaction. I mean, because I know that there's been comic book movies to do it before where they make a little wink or a nod about something.
Yeah, the little Easter eggs for us fans.
Yeah, a little Easter egg, but nothing saying, hey, we're gonna do this in the next movie or something like that. I've never seen that. So that's what I thought. I thought it was just, that was cool. They got Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury.
Yeah, and the first Iron Man even had that too. I mean, I didn't even know the first few times I watched it, but online, you can find everything online. I didn't know that Captain America's shield was in the background of one shot, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
They used it.
Yeah, that was honestly, that was another one, like, and to me, I mean, I kind of felt dumb at the very end, but when they started, every time that Agent Coulson would just say the long name, I guess, for shield, I never got it until the very end, and then when he said shield, I said, wait, what?
Yeah, strategic
like, okay,
homeland intervention.
that's
Cool. Yeah, dude, they tied in everything. I mean, and you know what? I got to give it up to Jon Favreau for a lot of it too, because from everything I've read between him and Kevin Feige, Favreau had just about as much input as Feige did at this point, being Feige's first movie for Marvel. And so, I mean, you can go ahead and bash Favreau for all you want, you guys, whoever's listening here. You can bash Favreau all you want, but I mean, if it weren't for him, the MCU wouldn't have been set up the way it is now.
He was a pioneer, man.
Yeah. He's a trailblazer for this thing.
Yeah, he definitely was, and like he was the one that I guess, even now, I mean, he's one of the executive producers,
on the Avengers,
the Marvel
right?
on Avengers and on Iron Man 3. I mean, like, yeah, he's really sort of steered this in the direction to grow, and that's because at the end he's a core fan. Like, that's when. If you read interviews, or if you listen to interviews, or if you listen to the video, like on special features of DVDs and Blu-rays, like he talks about, he was a big Iron Man fan. So like this opportunity, that this was huge to him to just do it. And like even the movie, like when they talk about it, like the making of the movie, specifically Iron Man, they said it just had like, even though it was a major big budget movie, it was filmed very independently. Like everybody was just throwing ideas off, and it was a real collaborative effort. It wasn't just like, Jon Favreau is the main guy.
Yeah,
like
he didn't dictate it, all right. Yeah.
What's that?
I said he wasn't the dictator. He welcomed input from everybody else, which is really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, you see, like Stan Winston was the guy that designed. Stan Winston's team, they designed the Iron Man suit, and then you had whoever, Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau, going the writing route, and then of course you have like a good amount of actors like mainly Jeff Bridges Robert Downey Jr., it's like, dude, you can't really go wrong with that kind of team right there.
Yeah, and Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't hurt either. I mean, she's got quite a few blockbusters under her belt as well.
Yeah, I really appreciated how Robert Downey Jr. really like took on the character. Like he prides himself that he's Iron Man now.
He
like,
does.
He loves it.
Yeah.
And he really like. I believe that when he was making that first movie, he had a lot of input on what he wanted to do with Tony Stark and how his relationship was with Jarvis or whatever. Like he probably had a lot of free.
I think he was given a lot of free reign as well.
Yeah.
Which actually it worked out definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't picture anybody else as Tony Stark. Like.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I honestly kind of start to wonder, watching these films and seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s public persona, I kind of wonder where the line blurs between the two. Like where does Tony Stark end and Robert Downey Jr. begin? Where
basically.
I don't know. I feel like that's exactly who he is in real life, and it's kind of cool, but at the same time, I mean, just a little bit of a fanboy nitpick. I see where it starts to deviate from the comic book version of Tony Stark, but I'm okay with that. The thing I'm not really okay with now is that the Tony Stark is being modeled after Robert Downey Jr. in the comics is all.
Right. Yeah.
But
you
that's
can definitely see that the film has it's got an impact on the books. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a totally different subject, and I won't derail the conversation with that. We've talked a lot about Iron Man.
What about Phase 1 Captain America now? Don't leave.
Oh no, we'll get to all of them.
Don't leave him out.
We can't leave out Cap for damn sure. But the last thing I want to say about Iron Man, just to people listening, is the Iron Man 2. Now I know people are gonna fault. I mean, I can't tell how many times I've seen comments directed towards Jon Favreau about, oh, you're a hack, you fucked up Iron Man 2. It was a piece of shit. It was garbage. Blah blah blah. Take from it what you will about what I say here, but there was just as much studio interference on that one as there was Spider-Man 3 and Raimi and Sony. And it was a giant trailer for Avengers 2, which is kind of cool to see. Just kind of left you with blue balls a little bit at the end. But, Iron Man 2 is far from a bad film. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm tired of Jon Favreau getting the hate for that movie. And
I don't think it was that bad. Like, I'm not on the forums. I don't know what people say about it, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I thought Whiplash was pretty cool. Seeing Mickey Rourke like that. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't a bad film, and yeah, I have my gripes with it, like any other movie.
Right.
But I'm not gonna sit there and say it was a shit fest because, in comparison to thousands of other movies, that shit was top notch.
Yeah.
So,
I think when it comes to Iron Man 2, like I said, the producers' involvement, they were probably, I think the case with Iron Man 2 is they kind of just got ahead of themselves, is because I don't think anybody really was expecting Iron Man to be such a hit.
No, that was a total undercard there.
Yeah, you have a tier, honestly, let's face it, Iron Man was never the most popular.
He was a B-list character at best, yeah.
Yeah, he was a B, he was a mid, I wouldn't say mid-carder, but he was a second tier. He was, right under there. And you really, to be honest, I never even thought I'd see an Iron Man movie, ever. I especially thought that I thought that I was going to see, a Captain America or a Venom movie or something before an Iron Man.
Yeah.
But so it was definitely just a surprise hit, and I think that with that momentum, they really just kind of maybe got a little bit too ahead of themselves. And because I know that Justin Theroux, he was the guy that wrote Tropic Thunder.
And the screenplay for this, right?
He wrote the script for Iron Man 2, and I think just a little bit too many involvement. I think people just got too much ahead of themselves to get back in focus, and everybody really had these ideas, and no one really, that at the time they probably still wanted to keep a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So they just kind of said, hey, everybody just, throw your input and we'll mix this in together. but at the same time, like you probably had Favreau who wanted to make a good movie, and then you had Feige who's like, hey, look, let's not forget, now we're on an Avengers track, so we can't get off track of that.
Exactly.
We have to make sure that this goes, down the road, like it's another stop towards the Avengers, kind of thing. And then Justin Theroux, who probably wanted to add a lot of comedy relief, because that's one thing that I kind of saw more in Iron Man 2 was a little bit more of a comedic relief,
Yeah, it slowed the pacing down of the film a little bit.
Yeah, and you can even tell just from the improv, you can tell what's improv by Robert Downey Jr. A lot of stuff is, you're supposed to, I mean, it's cool to give rein, but I mean, that's what I'm saying. People are now starting to, that blur that you were saying, like, people are like, okay, well, who's Tony Stark, and then which one is Robert Downey Jr.? Is is he playing somebody, or is he not? So it's like, that kind of thing happened with Iron Man 2. But other than that, I mean, great movie, dude. It evolved more of the storyline for what we're about to see for Iron Man 3. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it gave us War Machine.
Yeah, dude.
It set up a lot. It set up Black Widow, who ended up being in the Avengers. It set up Nick Fury and the whole relationship between Howard Stark, and it set up a lot of stuff. And if he didn't do it in Iron Man 2, it was going to happen in another film. So let's just be happy it happened in a sequel to a movie, and that all the origin stories are pretty much spotless, give or take a few gripes here and there.
Yeah, no, agreed. So moving on down. Are we going chronologically, or are we going
I mean, we don't even have to talk about each film individually. I just figured we'd start off with Iron Man because it led off Phase 1. But I'm really interested in how we think we're going to see the characters from and the tones of the movies of Phase 1 evolve into Phase 2, and what we expect to see or what we think we'll see, and how it's going to differ from what we've seen already.
What I want to see, honestly, I want to see a more mature Thor. I want to see a Thor that gets down to war, and he leads Asgard. I know we're gonna get to see the Dark Elves, and
yeah, hell yeah.
I think seeing Thor in the position of a general in his army, fighting against the Dark Elves, I really want to see that.
Yeah, I think that's
sure.
I don't know, depending on the next, I mean, obviously the next two that are coming out is Thor 2 and Iron Man 3.
Yep.
For this year, to deal with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, whatever you want to call it.
Definitely.
I think I'm more just anticipated with Thor 2, just because I'm looking for, just for my cup of tea, I'm looking for a more otherworldly kind of movie.
Right, right.
I've been seeing I'm updated constantly, and I see the set pics, where they're on location, and this movie, and I was even talking with you Uni earlier today, how no disrespect to Kenneth Branagh, for directing the first Thor movie, he kind of made that world, but now more than ever, one of my not gripes, but I say one of the things I just wanted to see more in Thor was I wanted to see more Asgard. I wanted to see another world. I wanted to see that. And I think we're gonna get that in this, the Thor: The Dark World movie. Dude, this is gonna be a more realistic, Asgard. And I think, I was reading again that review that Badland Murdoch did, where he was talking about realistic, not necessarily meaning dark and gritty.
No, it doesn't. I mean, like we said last night in the other podcast with Saint and all them. People throw that term around and they don't even know what the hell it means.
Yeah, they figure that just because you say realistic, that you say you're gonna do a darker, Frank Miller, version of something. It's no, man, we're just doing it more realistic. We're doing it to where you can relate, but that doesn't mean that the characters have to be dark. That just means it's just, you're able to relate to them more. It's realistic.
I mean, if you look at it, all the movies that we've seen from Marvel are realistic because the realism is set by the tone of the movie. And like Badland Murdoch said in his editorial, by the rules it sets for its own universe, the rules it sets for itself, that's what determines the realism. And I think all of our Marvel movies so far have been realistic, whether that's in canon with what you think The Dark Knight was realistic or not. That's your own opinion.
And I don't want to digress or anything, but going back to Iron Man and him being a B character, like what made him so popular nowadays is because in a cinematic, like in the movies, you have to figure out ways for Iron Man to become real, and that's when technology got involved, and then that's what makes Iron Man so cool.
Right.
His suit is so cool because it looks like it could be real.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
And
it's
in
that
the comic
far-fetched.
books, like before the movies, it was all left up to your imagination. You didn't see the parts coming together. You didn't see like how he built his suit or how he was supposed to fly. Like that was the stuff that really made him popular, and like that's what made you go see Iron Man 2. Like that's what keeps you connected. And with these movies, seeing these characters come to life and seeing their powers on screen and figuring out why they have these powers and actually seeing it with your eyes, like that's a big part of it. I mean, I guess that's why these movies are so good. But
Yeah, definitely.
like that's, I mean,
pretty much got it right there. Dude.
yeah, I mean, that's why people go to these movies. So
yeah, but I mean, more than that's not saying that I'm not looking forward to Iron Man 3, because I'm definitely looking forward to Iron Man 3. Like this one, and what's cool is like I think with the Phase 2, just in general, like nobody is like returning from Phase 2. Like Jon Favreau's not back in the chair, and
Kenneth Branagh's gone.
Kenneth Branagh's not.
Johnston's gone.
So like I think it's basically gonna like that's what they're trying to do. Is basically with movies they're trying to make movie comic books. Like they're
Exactly.
Giving a chance for these characters to evolve.
Yeah.
On screen.
Yeah, and I like that. It's like when a comic book a writer takes over for a new title, like Spider-Man. You've had how many writers? Well, why can't the director be the equivalent to the writer?
Exactly. Same with either costume design. Like, I mean, that's the cool thing is like I will say that even though there's some things that are my favorite kind of costume and wish that they'd stayed, it's always interesting to see like with this Iron Man 3 suit, how it's completely different from the first 6 or 7 costumes or suits that he's had. But this one, I mean, dude, like this new suit is like totally becoming my favorite.
Oh, it's grown on me like crazy.
Yeah, like it just, I don't know. Like at first when I saw it at Comic-Con when they debuted it, I was really iffy because I was like, man, that just looks like a lot of small parts and it looks more machine than it would like man. But then and that's the thing is like the people who had total faith in it, they were like, man, wait till we see a trailer, wait till we see it in live action. And that first trailer that came out, I was like, dude, that is gonna be one of the coolest like armors and one of the coolest designs ever.
Yeah, it's won me over for sure. I mean, I have no gripes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of gripes with the color and the shading or whatever it was, but I mean, now completely it's like, all right, dude, like, and I think that's even the cooler thing back to what you're saying about the realism is like, there's a purpose for the redesign of the suit.
Always,
like, there's like he's developing the extremis armor or whatever it is, like, the suit is going to be able to just come towards him and magnetize towards him or whatever. And it's like, okay, well, not that makes it even cooler.
It has to function differently.
Yeah, there's function to it now.
And that's a great thing about it too. I mean, that is, if anything has been kept up to par with the comic books, it's that Tony Stark is always tinkering with his armor. He's always trying to upgrade it. He's always trying to make it better. He's never satisfied with it. And I love that we keep getting new suits from this guy in the movies because that's Tony Stark. That's what he does. He's a futurist, so he keeps looking for ways to progress. You know what I mean? Stay 10 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, and that's been the coolest. Yeah, that's been the coolest thing is like, that's one of those little specific things about Iron Man that just make him cool is, Batman doesn't have a Hall of Armor or I mean, he may have a couple of costumes that are all like in a hangar somewhere, but they're all the same.
Yeah.
Like it's Captain America, he's got one suit in his little closet or whatever that is in a mantle or whatever, and like same with Spider-Man, like they don't have just one costume. Iron Man's like sitting here like, okay, what specific villain am I dealing with today? Okay, I've got an underwater villain. Where's the underwater suit?
Exactly. Iron Man's always been one of those characters who he never had a definitive look. I mean, he had a definitive look, but it could always stray away from that. You can't do that with Spider-Man without people bitching, but Iron Man is always constantly making his own. I mean, there's the classic suit, there's the all silver Mark One suit, there's the
Centurion,
extremis. Yeah, there's all these suits, and we all accept them because we understand that this guy, he can do that, and that's okay. He's one of the few characters that doesn't abide by that rule.
Yeah, it's perfect.
But
Don't you love it how we
anyways,
keep going back to Iron Man?
well, yeah, shit, man, he's just so good, right?
Yeah.
But for me, what Phase 2 is bringing to me is that what me and you talked about earlier, John, is that Phase 1 had to tread lightly with its characters because, like we've said, that you're introducing all of these second, third, tertiary characters to the general public, who most of them have no idea who they are. No one knew who Thor was. Very few people knew who Captain America was. Iron Man, Hulk was probably the only one well known because of the '70s Bill Bixby TV show. So this was kind of a sticking your toe in the water, testing the temperature, and seeing how the audience reacted. And luckily we got a relatively mostly positive review for all of them. So now that Phase 2 is there.
Now we know these characters.
Yeah, and so now we can make bold choices. They can take bigger risks on these characters because the audience is more willing to buy into that now. The first step is introducing the audience to these characters. Now you can do what you want with them.
Yeah, the one thing that I won't say it's a worry, but I just don't want them to focus on new things. Is I really want them to emphasize that the solo movies aren't second tier to the Avengers movie. Like
no.
That's what I don't want people to lose focus. That they're like, man, like I even have a friend. He's not a big comic book fan. He loved Avengers and he's loved all of them. But when he said there was going to be an Iron Man 3, he's like, man, come on, how is one superhero going to top that group and the alien invasion and everything? It's like, dude, but that's not. You're looking at it the wrong way. It's not about that. It's not about them topping. It's more. Or like that's what they were asking is like, well, if Iron Man has a bad guy, what's to stop him from, calling up Captain America or calling up the Hulk or Bruce Banner and be like, hey man, I need your help, let's squash this guy real quick. It's like, no, dude, like that's the thing. And like the Avengers, even though it's in the same universe, the Avengers is similar to like a standalone. It's like, okay, when the Avengers was basically created for the sole purpose that look, when things get too out of hand or there's a villain that is too big, or let's say a bunch of villains group up, that's when the Avengers form.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's in the beginning. They say that.
Easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they say when no other hero, like on the day that the Avengers were born, the heroes were brought together to take down a villain that no other single hero could do, or whatever. I don't have it memorized, but I mean that's the basis of the Avengers.
Exactly. Yeah, and it makes it even more important because it's like, come on, man, this is. Specifically for Iron Man 3, we're bringing out Iron Man's greatest enemy, the Mandarin.
Thank God.
So, yeah, it's like, finally, it's like, dude, about time, we're going to get the Mandarin. So it's like, that would just honestly depress me if Iron Man had to call up his Avenger buddies to come and take on the Mandarin. It's like, no, dude, this has got to be something that he has to do on his own. And, like, that's what they have to understand. Like, even though there are times where they're going to have to do something in a group effort, only having them come together for an Iron Man movie, it would take away from Iron Man, and honestly, it would take away from the character that would guest appear. Like, I've seen so many other people that comment, they're like, man, how come Hulk, isn't teaming up with Iron Man and Iron Man 3? It's like, dude, it's because it's an Iron Man movie.
Exactly.
Hulk's gonna get his own movie, and when he gets his own movie, he's not gonna have Iron Man, like, come and guest star on it, because that would only take away, I think, from both their star power.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like the comic books. I mean, if that's your train of thought, then why have solo titles for the characters? It's because you want to get to know those characters better on a more personal level. You don't want to just know them on a team ensemble. You want to get to know them individually, and so that's what's really the crowning jewel of all of these characters having their own film, is that you get to know them all on a personal basis. You get to see how different they are from the rest of their team members.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then when they do come together, you know why there's conflict between them.
Yeah,
like,
and yeah,
you
exactly.
understand that, let's say there were no, they didn't have their own movies, and they just went ahead and made an Avengers movie. Like, that movie would have sucked. because you wouldn't have understood why Captain America and Tony Stark did not get along. You wouldn't understand, you know, the reason behind,
which is Bruce Banner, like,
yeah,
he disappeared for so many years.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand why Bruce Banner, like, had an issue with being a part of a team, and, you know, you wouldn't even know where Thor came from. Like, it just wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have. And honestly, I don't want this to be the segue into the Justice League conversation just yet, but honestly, personally, I think that's why the Justice League won't work as of now.
Yeah.
But I think that's something we can get to later, but, you know, I just wanted to put that in there now before I forgot.
Yeah. No, are we going on Justice League, or are we still wrapping? Okay.
I'd like to wrap up Marvel, because I feel like there definitely are a few more things worth mentioning about Marvel, and one of them being my most anticipated Phase 2 Marvel film. You'd think is Iron Man 3, but I know that's going to be a good movie. I know I'm going to come out completely satisfied with it. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Now this one, has
You're talking with a Cap fanboy over here, dude.
Oh, dude, hey, for me it goes Iron Man then Cap on my list of characters. But Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I mean, this to me has the biggest potential to be the biggest surprise of Phase 2 and blow everybody away, or the biggest crap fest for Phase 2. And I'm inclined to think the former and hope this movie loves it. I mean, I love this movie, but, you know, I feel like they're trying to do a little too much with this movie by introducing the Winter Soldier. Arnim Zola, I think, has been confirmed at this point. Falcon, Crossbones. I mean, you're introducing a lot in one movie, and I don't know if you can give them all enough screen time to justify all their characters for every fanboy.
I'll say, like, for that, in Cap's defense, though, and even, like, going from books, Captain America has never, it's not that he's never been a solo dude, he's always just been a leader.
He is a leader for sure.
And I think that's the positive, like what you're saying, that's why I think this movie is gonna do good, is because what they're gonna do is, I mean, basically from my knowledge, if they're gonna bring in the ultimate version of Falcon, and they're gonna bring in, you know, Black Widow, she's coming back. I think that, you know, he's gonna just lead a team, but lead a smaller version of a team, similar to how he did with the Howling Commandos in Part 1. Like, I think that's really what they're gonna focus on with that.
Because that's what he does. And
yeah, because I think, like, you know, that's the thing. He's the cat. Like, I mean, his name, it's the captain. You know, he's the one. He makes the plays. He makes the calls. He calls the shots.
And he finishes the business.
Yeah, but I mean, he needs that team, you know, to definitely aid him in doing so. And I mean, another thing is, you know, if they're gonna go and focus, like, you know, on the journey of Captain America, you got to think, like, he didn't. I mean, from what we've seen, he really didn't have any time to start to adjust to this 21st century.
No,
which is
not
something
at all.
I really hope that they start to, you know, I hope they emphasize on that, because, you know, it was kind of weird how, you know, he wakes up, you know, at the very end of Captain America 1, he wakes up, and then, of course, right in Avengers, you know, he's boxing and stuff, and he's just getting out his aggression.
Right.
And so it's like, you know, you don't really get to see, you know, him start to get adjusted to, you know, like, I want to see scenes that, you know, we saw in the books. Like, I want to see him go and, you know, visit the graves of all the Howling Commandos and be like, dude, I want to see that conflict.
I want to see Dugan still alive, by the way.
I don't know about, well, hopefully, I mean, like I said, you never know. I mean, Captain America survived, and then, of course, Winter Soldier, you know, Bucky survived. But, I mean, it's just kind of like, I want to see stuff like that. You know, I want to see him have to go see, what's her name, Peggy Carter, you know, and, like, she's old and he's young kind of deal. Like, it's going to be different to see that emotional side. Like, I think people are going to real gravitate to that, because it's going to be like, dude, this guy's, he's a man at a time. That's basically what he is. He's stuck in a different world, even though it's the same, you know, it's the same country, to be honest. So it's like, how is a guy going to have to adapt to that?
Yeah,
You know?
definitely. Joey, I want you to end the Captain America conversation, because if you're that big a fanboy, I want to hear what you got to say. So I'm gonna give my 2 cents real quick. Before I let you totally rant on as long as you want. With Captain America 2, which I think is also kind of along the same tracks as Thor 2 and Iron Man 3, is that I think all these stories are going to be what Kevin Feige has said it for Avengers, or Whedon has said for Avengers 2, is that I think all these stories are going to be much more personal for every single one of our heroes. Not only is the Avengers 2 supposed to be more personal and hit closer to home for each character, but I think their individual movies should be doing that as well. And from what I've seen so far, it looks like that's what's going to be happening. In Iron Man 3, I think this is the first time we'll really get the sense of life or death with him being attacked in his own home. Thor, we're going to see, more his domain. Earth, obviously not his domain. So we'll see other realms that he's much more knowledgeable and familiar with, and we'll be introduced to that through Thor. And then here with Captain America, I mean, it doesn't get more personal than this. It is your best friend who's being manipulated by probably the Russian government. I mean, I'm hoping that's what they go with, keeping with the comic books. But I know you're itching, Joey. I hear it. But with the Winter Soldier, I mean, this has to be a very personal experience for Captain America. This has to be a personal struggle, because not only is he dealing with being a man at a time, but once he finds out that Bucky is the Winter Soldier, I mean, that's gonna knock him on his ass, and this is gonna have to be a total battle of the wits, total battle of his mind, total battle with, what do I do? Do I kill my best friend? Do I try and help him? Do I try and save him? And all the while, you got badasses like Crossbones trying to beat down on the guy. So, I mean, I'm really hoping that the scope of this movie isn't so grand, and it's much more under the radar of the public view, and much more personal for Captain America.
Yeah, I'm not going to go on too long. I'm glad Cap is in present time now. I'm glad we get to see, his bet, like you said, everything you said, I totally agree with. It's going to be very personal for him. He's not going to know what to do. I feel like this is going to give, Marvel a chance to really touch on subjects that are going on right now with our own government and what's going on in present time. Like, is he going to even... is he going to have conflicts with, deciding, is this country worth fighting for? Or is, what's happening, like, whether it is the Russian government or, it's going to be a lot of, top secret underground stuff that's going to come to life, and, he's got to make this decision and, decide in himself, like, whether he's going to, fight against his best friend to save this country that he has no idea, he's not from this time. He doesn't understand, the new ways of what's going on. I mean, I'm just really excited to see, like, I really like that type of, that type of stuff, like the conspiracy theory stuff. And if they go along that path, I think Captain America, fits right in there, because he always makes the right decision. He always makes the decision that's true as a leader, that's true, to being good. He's good at heart, and he has the strength to back it up. And that's one of the characteristics that I've always loved about Captain America. And I think that's why I like him so much, is because, he does what's right because it's right.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy we should all aspire to be.
Influence him. What was that?
Oh, I said he's the guy that we should all aspire to be, man. I love him for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, I haven't really, I'm really not on comic book movie that much, and I'm not on the forums, and I can't tell you that I'm not completely up to date on, like, what's going on with Captain America, the Winter Soldier, but I can tell you that, I do know what I want to see from it, and if it's along the lines of any of that, like, Russian government conspiracy, and him having to decide between his friend and America, then I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, dude, I like that because honestly, I didn't think about it, but if you do think about it, Bucky is his only real tie to the past anymore, and if he has to fight that, that makes him much more personal.
See, yeah, that's one of the cool things that y'all were just getting on personal, because it's not just. I mean, it is a lot of like, oh man, it's his best friend, and they grew up together and everything like that. But at the same time, I mean, you got to imagine the guilt that's probably going through Captain America, because it's like not only like, man, do I take on my best friend, or do I have to stop him? It's like he probably has that guilt of like, well, if it wasn't for me, none of this would have happened to him. So that's just another not character flaw, but I guess you want to call it like a challenge or like a hurdle that he's just gonna have to get through, like story-wise.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably just like I said, all these Marvel movies, I think, is another reason why you said they're all taking a personal journey. Is each one visually, which I'm all about, because I'm just into visual like entertainment, and of course that's one of the things that sells these movies. Each one visually is gonna bring something different to the fans, or to the general audience. If you're in for that epic, magical, sci-fi-ish kind of stuff, Thor's going to be right down your alley. If you want, the high-tech, suits, mechanical, all kinds of stuff, that's what you're going to get in Iron Man. And then I think from Captain America, which I'm really excited.
I want to see I honestly want to see like a somewhat like Mission Impossible meets like Bourne Supremacy or Bourne Legacy, like
meets Saving Private Ryan.
What was that? And then you Saving Private Ryan, and then just add them all together, and then you
get Cap, dude. Yeah. Like even some people said, I mean, for the Avengers, as much as Cap was doing and everything like that, I've even seen some people say, man, Cap was he was kind of limited, on his stuff, because the only people that he really does fight is he fights
the Nazis.
Yeah, well, he did a lot of fighting against Hydra, but I mean, people were like, man, where's Cap? Like the ultimate, acrobatic and just quick as crazy, like can't even see him almost. Like his fight style he's so quick, he's like sudden. Where, like, he's at one point of your eye level, and then he's like right behind you the next, and he's already taking you down. Yeah, so like that's gonna be something for the Cap fans that they're gonna want to see, because.
That's my two gripes with the first movie. One, we didn't get a proper display of his fighting abilities and what he can do, and then Red Skull just wasn't fleshed out well enough for me. Those are my two gripes from the first Captain America. But overall, Steve Rogers, the character of Steve Rogers as Captain America, was probably done better than almost any other Marvel film. You can quote me on that, hate me on it, I don't care. Steve Rogers was Steve Rogers.
Yeah, and so you like the actor choice then, I guess.
You know what? I didn't at first, but it took me not even 2 minutes to buy into him after seeing that movie.
Yeah. See, I was pretty faithful, like, from the beginning. Like, a lot of people were like, no way, how can that happen? He was Johnny Storm. No, he can't do that. But,
people bitch about stupid shit, man.
Yeah, it's like, give the guy a chance. Like, I thought he was perfect from the beginning. Like, I've seen him in other movies, like The Loser, and even other movies that weren't even comic book movies.
No, if you saw him in Puncture, I don't know if you saw that, but he was phenomenal in that movie.
I gotta say, like, Chris Evans, he's a good actor, and like that was the thing, is I was one of those like naysayers where I was like, man, I really thought. At the same, and I guess I grew up like with the Captain America that was already a well-established Captain America. Like he grew up, he was already, I'd say, like in his mid-30s. He was already like an older Captain guy. And I saw Chris Evans. Well, I mean, I don't know. Captain America just had that presence in the cartoons where he was just older. He wasn't a younger, he wasn't a younger guy. And when I heard Chris Evans was doing it, I was like, man, that guy he's been in more comedies and stuff like that. It's like, how's this guy gonna like do that? And of course, seeing his role in Captain America, I mean, the dude earned it, physically and emotionally and like acting range and everything. He earned the title. I mean, he got buffed up, dude. Where I was like, all right, yeah, that right there, like, he's committed to the role.
Yeah, and not only that, but we'll see Chris Evans grow into that Captain America that we all know as well.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, further down the line when we see in Avengers 2, and he is, you know, you can tell that is in his face, you know, where it's aged to just a little bit. It's right to perfection, dude. When he's like gonna be, I don't know how old Chris Evans is.
I think he's like 28.
28 or something like that.
Yeah.
When he's like 35 and he's doing Captain America, like, yeah, dude. Think, yeah, age. Yeah.
It'll be a total win, man, for sure. I mean, Captain America's been unfrozen since the 60s in the comic book, so he's had, you know, 50 years of gaining, you know, stature and giving the fanboys an idea of who he is. Chris Evans has only had 2 outings, one which wasn't even focused on him entirely. So, yeah, we'll definitely see him grow. I'm confident in that because from the Steve Rogers I saw in Captain America 1, there's no doubt in my mind that he was the right choice. And thank God Channing Tatum didn't do that fucking role.
Yeah. See, that's the other thing is, like, you know, people are like, well, who would you rather have? And then you look at the whole, like, the potential picks. You're like, well, you know, yeah. Maybe,
they made the right choice out of those.
Maybe they did make the right choice.
Yeah.
No, I want to know. Like I said, I don't get on the websites and I don't get on the forums. So, are we gonna get completely surprised by the Hulk? Like, is his part of Phase 2? Like, is it gonna be more in depth?
As of now,
have been? Like, are we getting the same?
As of now, there's no Hulk 2 confirmed for Phase 2.
Yeah, there's nothing for the Hulk, and that's one thing I did want to talk about before we switch over to DC. Is you know, I'm really if that's one thing that I'm like, Marvel, what's going on with that? Is definitely that. Like, why? Where's the Hulk?
Yeah, if there's a time, it's now to capitalize, dude. The audience wants more Hulk. That guy stole the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the thing is you could. I mean, right now they couldn't have picked a better actor with Mark Ruffalo. I mean, he just, you know, and like, to me, it's different, you know. With
I
the
forgot
Hulk,
all about Edward Norton as soon as I saw him, dude. I mean, no offense to Norton, I loved his movie, but I mean, he didn't ring a bell as soon as I saw Ruffalo.
Yeah, well, I kind of took it as I was a little upset at first, but getting to actually see the Hulk, because that's who I was more worried about. You know, I mean, I know Hulk is one of those characters, like, you know, people always want to say, man, focus on the person inside or the person inside the costume or whatever. But I mean,
I disagree with
like,
Hulk. Yeah.
They kind of have. It's kind of just 2 versions, but they're both really good versions.
Yeah.
I thought that, you know, like, Norton's was really good. It was, like, honestly a spot-on, you know, paying tribute to Bill Bixby. I mean,
yeah,
that
definitely.
was, you know, really cool. And then what was cool with me was I liked the dichotomy of, like, this skinny, you know, poor-looking guy who turns into this huge beast. And, you know, that's why I picked Edward Norton. You know, and I was a little upset at first, but when I saw a look at the Hulk and what the Hulk was going to look like, it really didn't even matter, like, to me, and I thought that Ruffalo did just a good job. Because, you know, people will say what they want, but, you know, it's like, how would Norton's Hulk work in the Avengers, you know, when they're trying to ask him to be on board, yet, you know, Edward Norton's version of the Hulk or Banner was always just a guy on the run. Like, It just seems like they never would have caught him, or they would not have gotten Edward Norton's version of Banner to join the team.
No.
So it just makes sense that they kind of redo the Hulk and do him better. Like, you know, I mean, when it comes to just visual-wise, dude, I don't think the Hulk has ever looked better than he did in Avengers. So it was just third time's a charm, because I know in 2003 they fucked up with Ang Lee's Hulk, and then they did this other Hulk in 2008, which was cool. And I mean, you know, like I said, like what we're going back to, where every artist has a different take or something like that. You know, the same happens in the movies, but this one right here is definitely, dude. I mean, like, the short hair, the big forehead, the droopy kind of face. It was just like,
yeah. So far, this is definitely the definitive cinematic Hulk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was totally pissed hearing they were going to recast Ed Norton. And, you know, all the way up to entering the movie theater, I was like, you know, I really wish they wouldn't have recast him. I mean, I'm over it, but as soon as I saw Mark Ruffalo on screen as Banner, that's when I said, you know, Ed Norton who?
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it, you know? I mean, we've had recastings before, they happen. You just got to get past it.
Yeah, just like one of those things. I mean, hopefully it doesn't. The only thing is you just hope that it doesn't hurt the movie.
Exactly.
So,
And before we move to JLA, there's one big, big elephant in the room we're not talking about. Guardians of the Galaxy has been confirmed for Phase 2. Now, I know none of us are that well versed on Guardians of the Galaxy, but
not.
The one with the raccoon?
yeah, the Rocket Raccoon and the talking
That was a
Groot
joke.
tree.
That was a joke.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean,
See how, like,
it's
you
worth
understand.
mentioning. I think just
man,
the
when it
fact
comes
that
to
they're going
Guardians-
cosmic with it, you know. I mean, it's pretty cool to think they're expanding their universe to the cosmic side, and I hope that our characters don't get lost in this cosmic shuffle with Thanos also being somewhere around here.
Well, I think that's gonna really introduce Thanos, introduce that whole whole universe of Marvel. Having these characters come in is gonna get the viewer used to being that type of like other like outer space or cosmic like vibe. I think.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not knowledgeable on the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, so with it, I don't really have too much input from what they're doing. I think they hired James Gunn, and I'm not really familiar with his work.
I've seen Super, and that shit was gruesome, man. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean I did not expect Ellen Page's face to get blown off. So.
See, I haven't even seen that movie, but I mean, like, you know, just the way that they're going, I think they're being very, very particular in their choices with it, because really, what we had been talking about earlier is I just hope that this movie does not have a lot of effect on the core characters, which is, you know, to me, the core four of Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and
Thor. Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Iron Man supposedly is going to be making some kind of cameo, if not have a role in Guardians of the Galaxy. But as far as my knowledge on Guardians of the Galaxy goes, it's Thanos Imperative and the Annihilators. That's about as far as I know. I mean, I know they're not the Annihilators, but they make appearances and stuff. I mean, that's as far as my knowledge goes. It's not very extensive.
Yeah, so I mean, but it's going to be interesting. It's definitely a big risk. But like we were saying, like,
big risk, big reward, man.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? I think that Marvel has kind of cemented their legacy almost of what's going to come on. You know, so really, if this movie does disappoint, it won't be, like I said, as long as it doesn't involve a lot of the core four, I don't think that it's going to have a huge impact on what goes on Avengers 2 the next year or the next summer.
Right,
so
yeah.
It's like, you know, if it doesn't work out, it's like, hey, look, we tried to do one of those, you know, now we know we have to stick to the more human, you know, relatable, you know, people. Because that's the only thing is, like, that's not I'm not worried about how they're going to do it, you know, visually, because I know, like, you know, Marvel's been able to do everything. They created a Hulk, you know, so I have no problem in them trying to create a talking raccoon. My concern is more, how are they going to make these guys relatable to general audiences, and how, you know, with the emotion. Like, I have no idea who Star-Lord or Gamora or, you know, I don't know who those guys are, you know, like, so I want to know who they are, but I'm hoping just from a trailer or something like that they're going to get me interested to find out who these people are before I watch the movie. So,
yeah.
So I just want to say, this is my 2 cents about the whole thing. Picture the Marvel Universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as a comic book store. So you have your Spider-Man, you have your X-Men, you have Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, the Avengers. You have that, and then, you know, you throw in
a few lesser known titles.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's going to be a part of Phase 2. I think what they're trying to do, it might open a door to a different type of Marvel movie.
Right.
For different type of audience.
Completely agree, yeah.
Maybe everyone won't like it, but you still have your core, you still have your Avengers, you still have Iron Man, you still have Spider-Man, you still have all these things that you do enjoy, but Marvel will still make money off of Guardians of the Galaxy because there are fans of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
There are people out there who like them.
Yeah, because I mean that was the most like shocking thing to me when they announced that at Comic-Con, and then like thousands of people started screaming because I definitely felt the minority. I was like, who?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, who are they talking about? You know, like, and I mean, personally, to me, like I said, I would rather see characters that I relate to. Like I know you and I have talked about it, but you know, I want to see a Black Panther movie. You know, I want to see a Doctor Strange movie. I want to see, and all those are going to come in due time because Marvel's told us. But it's like I just kind of sat there in a little bit of disbelief. Like, man, how does it
take precedence, right?
Get made before a Daredevil reboot or something?
I mean, I can just say that I'm kind of excited. I don't know about these characters, so I get to learn about them, in the movies. Like,
yeah.
I get to go see a movie, and I get to see them, and, I don't have to go and read the books.
Exactly. I'm with you, Joey. I mean, like, I'm kind of happy that I finally get to go into a Marvel film not having any real background knowledge on these guys, and I get to see it from the perspective of the general audience, because I've never gotten to see a Marvel movie from the perspective of the general audience because I've always known who these characters are, who they should be, and how they should be portrayed on screen. So it's kind of exciting in that way to think, I'm going to get to see this the way most of the world sees this, and then I'll know for sure for myself if it's a good movie.
I'm glad that you said that because I haven't really thought about it that way because, I mean, maybe Marvel decided, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pick a comic book that no one would expect. We're going to tie it into this story,
yeah,
and we're going to show these people what Marvel can really do with a character that no one knows about.
Yeah, and so then I will know for sure I haven't just had my blinders on this whole time, and that these movies really are as good as I think they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and then the one last thing I want to say on Guardians of the Galaxy is that I think that oh shit, I just lost my train of thought, but I think going this cosmic route with this fuck it, I lost it. Let's just move on.
Cosmic route, going into outer space.
I think it's good that here's the upside of going to the cosmic route is. One thing is it's going to keep it simple, because I think that's what, it's going to keep it simple in the story, like, there's just good and bad, because I was going to bring up, people are expecting a lot of this from these phases, and one that I just want to go ahead and bury right now, the rumor mill, is a Civil War storyline or something like that.
Yeah.
I just don't think that a Civil War storyline would be the best thing to take these characters through a cinematic route. In a book, I know I'm the first to say that anything can get made into a movie, but that storyline, that specific storyline, because people are really saying, well, with Phase 2 they're going to go cosmic, and then Phase 3 they're just going to go like Civil War. But I just think turning some of these heroes into like villains or giving them those kind of opinions, like when it comes to like government and politics.
It's way too early.
Yeah, we don't need to see hero versus hero just yet.
Yeah, and I mean, hero versus hero is always good, but in the sense of like, hey, I just don't know who you are, so I'm going to stand up for what I believe in.
Yeah.
It's not more just like, hey, I side with the people, or hey, I side with the heroes, or it's different to me than that. So that's one thing that I just want. I know people are like, oh man, I want to see them do a Civil War. Anytime I hear that, I'm just like, look, man, Civil War isn't going to be done because one. That storyline specifically contains the entire Marvel universe. So to do that, you need to get Spider-Man from Sony, and you need to get the Fantastic Four and
the
everybody
X-Men.
the X-Men from Fox.
Yeah.
So that's already a licensing problem. And then just to do it, it's just too many heroes on the floor, dude, and it would be a total clusterfuck. I mean, in my opinion, excuse my language, but
that's all good.
It would just to have too many heroes out there. It just be too much.
Yeah, it'd be too polluted, man. Yeah.
Yeah, keeping it to the core four and just involving new bad guys and maybe introducing one villain, or one new teammate. Particularly, my hope, is Ant-Man with Phase 3.
Same.
That's what I think they should do. I think to keep it more simplistic, because even though Avengers was a grand spectacle of a movie, it was still simple. It was about what these four guys are going to do when they have to team up and take on a higher power.
Right.
That's what made it good. You didn't have to think about it. You know, it was just an entertaining movie. The only thing you did, have to think about was which character you related to the most.
Yeah, and I finally remembered what I was gonna say on Guardians of the Galaxy, so I want to put that out there. And I also want to say to any listeners that we have, I'm sorry we're running a little short on time. I don't know if we're gonna really be able to get to the Justice League topic, but I promise that will be a part of the next one. And John, Joey, you're both welcome back, of course, to do that. And if anybody else wants to join in, if we can get one more person in on this, that's completely fine. But for the Guardians of the Galaxy, I think the one thing that Marvel has clearly stated for all of its fans is that your willingness to suspend your belief system when going to see these movies is I mean, you're willing to suspend that, say, as opposed to when you go and see The Dark Knight, right? You go and see The Dark Knight, the precedent has been set that, okay, I have to buy into this, that this is actually happening in my world. Well, in the Marvel Universe, yeah, we feel like it's set on Earth. We feel like it's a part of our world, yet separated in a fantastical way. So, in that sense, I think Guardians of the Galaxy will be successful because people have come to know what to expect from Marvel, And I think that even though it is space-driven, it is cosmic, it is otherworldly, I think it's still going to retain its sense of Marvel, and that people are going to be able to buy into it just fine because they understand that these movies aren't like The Dark Knight, or they aren't like even the X-Men films, really, because we don't feel like this is taking part really in our universe. I never once thought, oh God, I better go check out my New York window apartment to make sure the Chitauri aren't breaking in right now. So I think that the Guardians of the Galaxy has a good shot at being successful if the general audience knows what they're going into from the start, which I think Marvel has set a good precedent for itself as to what the audience can expect to see from them.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of other things that have to do with it, like the fact that, there's only been one casting that with the guy from Community. Is it Parks and Recreation or Community?
Parks and Recreation, yeah, Chris Pratt.
Parks and Recreation, yeah, Chris Pratt is his name. He's the first one. So basically, really all we've got is we've got a writer, a director, and a lead.
Right.
So it's just like, we really can't expect that much, but I guarantee, this year at Comic-Con, there's probably going to be something, and that's, I'm hoping that there's something, because last year, all there was one concept art, one piece of concept art. So, I mean, they only have one guy attached to it physically, so I'm wondering if this movie is going to be a lot of visual effects,
Oh, yeah, most definitely will have to be, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm hoping they have something ready, just to keep just to give the fans and give people a little taste of what's to come, because that's the thing is, like, I'm totally in the dark about this movie, so, like,
bring in Doug Jones for Groot and Andy Serkis for Rocket Raccoon, and I'm good. But so go ahead, John.
Maybe we can pick some more fan casts later, but yeah man.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to be able to stay around for a Justice League talk, but like I said before,
we need to have a part 2, a sequel.
Yeah, we will definitely do a part 2 to this, and we will definitely address our thoughts on the Justice League and what we feel like will work, won't work, and what we can expect to see from that. Is there any closing statements from you guys?
Yeah, I just want to leave you guys with just a food for thought. Jim Carrey as Plastic Man for a Justice League.
That'd be good.
No, man, I think we pretty much wrapped it up, dude, and, I can't wait to do another one. This was really fun. It seems like, between the other podcasts, this one was definitely more of a serious note, even though we did get to joke around, but this one, we really got down to business, so I'd like to definitely get other people involved as well. We can see what's left to come, man, because, like, yeah, this is going to be a fun summer, and I can see the podcast definitely coming into reviews, and, especially around July when Comic-Con comes along.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a lot to talk about, so that's definitely going to be, fun.
Definitely. And what I want to say to any listeners out there, if you guys have a topic you want to hear us talk about, or even if you want to be brought into the podcast, with a topic in mind, we are more than happy to accommodate that and talk with you guys. If you want to have a respectful debate, not an argument, we're happy to do it. And, you know, thanks for listening. This has been our first podcast without Saint, and we miss him. We hope to get him on here at some point. Anything else from you guys before we sign out?
Nah, man. Well, hope you like it.
Yeah, me too. Hey, guys, I had fun.
All right, man.
All right,
Definitely, we'll chat it up then later for a part 2.
All right, sounds good. This is UniBeam saying, let's go to shawarma.